I'll let you know when we're set on this side. Okay, Mr. Nedrow, meeting is yours.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the regular council meeting of June 10th for the Village of Wolverine Lake. And this is kind of a virtual, pseudo-virtual meeting, Zoom, online, and in person. So I'd like to call the meeting to order and pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of
United
the
States
United States of America,
and to
to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
God.
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
York,
He will be joining.
Sinkowitz,
Here.
Dumont,
Here.
Duff,
Here.
Malik,
here.
Scott,
He's
I
on
see
mute.
him. There he is.
Nedrow,
Here. Okay, I know Walt will be joining us shortly here, so I don't believe we have any additions to business. Is that correct, Mr. Smith?
Only thing I didn't know if Mark wanted to do a formal update or if he would just speak during the park time.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Let's move him into our agenda.
Okay, we can, want to have a separate item there then?
Did you have I apologize, Mark, I forgot
That's
that you
okay.
had some Parks and Rec updates for the summer and programs and things.
Yeah, I can provide an update since we did make some bigger decisions at the last Parks and Rec meeting.
Perfect.
Why don't we put them under new business A1 then? Because we're going to be discussing Clara Miller restrooms at that point. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And thank you, Mark, for joining us.
Oh, of course, thank you.
Okay. No, I don't believe there's anything else then.
No.
So need an agenda or need approval of the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Motion by Duff. I hear a
Dumont.
second. What was that?
Dumont.
Second by Mr. Dumont. Discussion. All in favor? Well, look, might as well put a roll call vote on it.
York,
He's
Walt
muted.
is muted. There he is.
Yes.
Sinkowitz,
Yes.
Dumont,
Yes.
Duff,
Yeah.
Malik,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Nedrow,
Yes. Okay. As far as correspondence goes, we had a nice letter from a young lady in Wixom thanking our police department for Wigs for Kids. They sponsored her with a wig. And so it was nice little letter for thanks for them. So as far as next item is call the public. So I don't know if we have any public on that's called in, or I don't believe we have any in Village Hall at this point.
I do not see any telephone callers calling in from the public, Mr. Nedrow.
No one's.
Okay. With that, I guess we'll bypass the call to the public and move on to consideration of approving the following consent agenda. So we got the minutes from the regular council meeting from May 13th. We have the council budget work session minutes from May 27th. List of warrants from the month of May. And receive and file the department reports. And
So
then
moved.
we've got also approving the 2019-2020 fiscal year-end budget amendments as listed.
So moved, Mr. President.
That's a motion by Mr. Duff. I hear a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dumont. Any discussion?
Yes, we're going to be able to still make comments on the current before we vote on it.
Oh, yeah.
That I had questions on.
Yeah, that absolutely, Ed.
All right.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
York,
Yes.
Sinkowitz,
Yes.
Dumont,
Yes.
Duff,
Yes.
Malik,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Nedrow.
Yes. We have no board appointments. So we'll move along to item 10, presentations. And happy to turn this over to our police chief for an introduction of our new police officer.
Council, thank you, Mr. President. I'm very happy to introduce our newest police officer, Celeste Lucas Castillo. She was top notch. She was way above everybody else. It was a very easy decision. I want to bring her in here real quick.
Good evening, everyone.
She is going to be joining us starting next week. She comes from the Oakland County Sheriff's Department, where she's been for 7 years. Prior to that, she worked in a small town that I'm very familiar with, Springport. So she's been a police officer for 10 years, has a degree from Delta College up in Saginaw, also been through the Saginaw Correctional Academy. So she's very well-versed and well-educated, and I think she's going to be a great fit for our department.
Great.
Wonderful.
Again, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sure we'll be seeing you in a week or so.
Welcome.
So swearing in, you're going to be, did you swear her in yet, John, or?
We did. We swore her in about an hour ago downstairs, and I'll post some pictures so everybody has an idea of
John,
that.
I have a question.
Sure.
If we have a regular scheduled meeting in July at the Village Hall, I'd like our new officer, if possible, to be there so we can all personally introduce ourselves and say hello.
Absolutely. We'll make it happen.
Yep.
That's a
great
great
idea.
idea, Bob. Okay, well, wonderful. Well, welcome.
She doesn't have to be in uniform if she's not on duty.
Well, I have a feeling we're going to be burying her on midnights for a while, which is okay for her. But yeah, so we'll make it work.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. Yeah, wonderful.
congratulations to her.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll move along to Mr. Powell for updates. First one's pathway project updates.
He's on mute.
If he's
Yeah, he's
available,
coming up here shortly. We should be.
unless he's
He might have been called to his other meeting.
on to his other meeting possibly.
Yeah.
Well, we want to just bypass him at this point.
I make a motion that we skip him until he's available.
Support.
That was motion by Duff, second by Sienkiewicz, I believe, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
All for the vote.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries on that one, so we'll do that one. Moving along to the public hearing
Aye.
on for the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund Grant Development Application. This is for Clara Miller Park improvements and renovations. And this is a public hearing. We've applied for that grant, and we need to have a public hearing to have any public input regarding this. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Smith.
I will read a couple emails that into the record. We have one from Kyle Dorsey at 2425 Brisbane. They stated, I've lived in Wolverine Lake for 8.5 years, and one of the things that really drew me to this community is Clara Miller Park, a great open space with trees, walking, biking paths, and an incredible community feel. I have a lot of interest in what happens to Clara Miller Park in this improvement and renovation project, as it is adjacent to both my backyard as well as the north side of my house. I understand that the park does need updates. Things need to be cleaned up, brought up to code, and made accessible. However, it is also very important to keep this a neighborhood park and protect the community feel. It is so important to avoid the overbuilding of our park, avoid getting rid of healthy trees, and our open space. Our open spaces of Clara Miller Park were utilized so much during the last 3 months of social distancing when we couldn't do much besides go outside. And preventing any new parking lots, increasing the traffic on already busy village streets in which many children and adults alike are walking and riding their bikes on Brisbane. I am proud to live in this community and look forward to seeing how this improvement project progresses. And then I have a couple others from Terry Barletta, or Terry Burso. She has two last names. She stated that, I'll do the more recent one that I just received on Monday. I did respond to her via email. She had two emails that she had sent me from two emails. So she stated to council members, I don't know if you got this one, because it was maybe a blind copy, I'm not sure. There was no hearing to be held on March 25th. It was actually a joint workshop meeting with Parks and Rec. The virtual hearing planned on April 8th was unethical. There was no hearing notice sent out. I emailed Mr. Smith and pointed these two facts out, yet I see they are printed in a legal notice. Stated that the Claire Miller Park Master Plan was adopted in 2018. Legal notice was incorrect. I will admit that. Planning a hearing during a pandemic is wrong and disrespectful to the community. It's obvious of our attention, she stated, with little turnout, online attendance, and most people are not comfortable in a public setting. The Michigan State grant application states public input. Public meetings focus on review of your recreation plan. Will not meet your obligations for the public input for your grant application unless the meeting notice and agenda indicates that the meeting will cover both recreation plan review and specific grant application. Stated the public notice did not have an agenda, but a summary of the park plan. The council meeting for June 10th does not give an agenda either. These are all bullet points she stated. The description of the grant is deceptive. The board is asking for $300,000, which 25% must be paid back. When submitting for this grant, I would imagine they will put two and two together and see the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And if this grant was important to the community, there would have been attention to detail. Considering the grant board grades this application by points, some will be lost due to lack of details. She was stating that it should have been rescheduled. There was no time to discuss the park grant, tax millage, and conduct a regular council meeting. So she did take these up. I did respond to her via email. One of the other ones from her as well, it was back with the April 8th one that we phoned. Talked about Parks and Rec had their February meeting, and as of that date, this was April 6th, has yet to publish their minutes, perhaps in an effort to keep their plans from the public. Please explain how a joint meeting could have taken place, certainly not over the phone. And then that was, that's why we postponed it. For the council to conduct a hearing via internet on a community park is unjust, and this is the same conduct that was previously done, she stated, in the past. So those are I did respond to them, but that's what I wanted to read into the record. Those are the feedback that I received.
So how does that affect us? Is it that we can't apply for the grants, or we shouldn't have applied for the grants?
We have to close the public hearing now, and then we can respond. So is there anyone else in the public that wants to speak on phone call or anything?
Can I speak?
Absolutely.
Okay, Mark Jeremini, 2459 Oakview Drive. Little surprise probably to any of you that I would be in support of pursuing this grant, but a few reasons why. Number one of the reasons the Claire Miller Park Master Plan was created and money was spent was to aid in the pursuit of grants like this. There's a lot of problems with our equipment, our playground equipment particularly, where words like impalement hazard and choking hazard apply. Equipment with severe corrosion. We have a lot of equipment that is older. It's served us really well for a long time, but time and nature have taken their toll. This grant is a chance to make a more accessible park, make more pathways, make things easier to get around in. It makes a safer park, and a park that makes Wolverine Lake an even better place to live. And that's all I gotta say.
Thank you, Mr. Jimmy.
I got a question. I've had a couple of people approach me, not positive or negative, but they feel like they don't know what's really happening. And as that lady alluded to, not having a formal meeting where people can sit down, because, there's a lot of people that don't like to go to a meeting. There's a lot of people that don't like to do this on the telephone. But are we still looking at the 200, 300, or are we looking at the 100, 200?
That would be your decision as the council
Okay. All right.
during the motion to approve what you want to do.
Well, I would say currently we're looking at to try to accumulate that grant. And if we get that grant, we'd be looking at the 200 for 2 years. And to get the 300, to be able to put $500,000 into that park, I mean, we've got parking lots. We've got a lot of maintenance that we need to have done on that park just to maintain it and bring it back up to where it should be. So in addition to, the bathrooms and, some other stuff that we were looking at as far as the playground equipment.
So let's not forget right now that we're in the public hearing
correct.
portion.
Yep.
And
Okay, I have a question. I have a question from Mike Smith. Is there a deadline to get this grant in?
Can we need to close the public hearing
Yeah,
first?
if there's no more publics to speak on at this point.
Mr. Nedro, I just wanted to confirm there are no phone callers raising their hand at this point.
Okay, at this point then, we'll close the public hearing.
We'll have to have these discussion points actually under the actual new business item.
Correct, yeah, yep. So at this point, the motion or the public hearing is closed.
Yes.
So we'll move forward with, is Mr. Powell back yet?
Mr. President, can I relate to that last discussion on the park? Can we see a plan from the Park and Rec board of?
Well, we're going to be discussing this further on down.
Okay.
Under
item
discussion for the park. Grant,
okay.
So, under business items. So we'll discuss it at that point. Let's try to continue to move through the agenda at this point. Mr. Powell, I don't believe is back yet. So at this point, we'll move along to the public hearing for the 2020-2021 budget. So at this point, we will open the public hearing for the next fiscal budget. Is there anybody that would like to speak regarding?
So, Mr. Nedro, we have no telephone callers. Michael Smith, if you want to confirm council chambers.
Just me. Nope, no one here.
Okay, so seeing nobody.
And I did not receive any email inquiries either. I don't know if Mr. Condact did.
Well, seeing none, I guess we will close the public hearing for the 2020-2021 budget. And move along to new business item 1, which will be discussion on Clara Miller Park restroom renovation.
This would be, I believe, Councilmember Sinkowitz will lead. This was his drawing that was he submitted, so he can.
Yeah. As you can see, I'm not a professional in this respect, but I'm sure that if council wanted to do something like this, we wouldn't have any problem getting either Mike Powell or somebody else to make a actual working drawing for construction. But I met with 3 different contractors that are in the local area, all licensed. And we went in there and did some measuring, and on the back, well, the first sheet, you see the existing building. If we still need a storage building, which I understand we do, we could go out 15 by 30, block building, new roof, a door, more than likely a roll-up door, and the 2 utility boxes can stay there, and they put a transmitter on it to the outside so the electricity can be read where they don't have to come inside. I indicated that we need windows for light, and I don't know if we want windows that slide back and forth up and down with the screen, or for security, just put glass block.
I would put block in there. That's something.
Well, that's what I have in there.
So,
This is an option, yeah.
yep.
And then in the flip the page over, first thing we're going to do is knock out all the concrete barrier walls, which take up almost 1.5 feet. And in the men's room, the toilet is located fine. We'll put up a metal partition with the door. The urinal will be moved. The sink will be moved. And the hand dryer can all be moved. This is very simple because it's a block wall and you can work from the center of the building, which is the utility area where the pump is and everything. So there's no floors have to be ripped up. When we go to the women's, which is even bigger, it's 2 feet wider. The only toilet that has to be moved is the second one. And that would be just breaking up the concrete, putting in a new drain, setting the toilet, and doing the same thing, the sink and the hand dryer, whatever that is, can all be moved down there because you're working on the backside of a wall. So it's a very simple thing. And I talked with them and I didn't know, as I said on here, remove interior walls, relocate toilets, repair and seal floor, install metal panel, sink, etc. We're using the same well, same septic system, same building, and we can get this done for someplace around $50,000. And then we'll have.
And that's including the addition?
Pardon me?
That's
Everything.
including the addition, Ed?
Toilet and the addition. What's on that print?
Okay.
Adding the addition in the back, roof and everything, and doing this inside. Now, the only question I have is if we approve it, and I hope we do, because it's something that is necessary, do we have to go out for bids?
I would think so.
I would think we'd want to, yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Hey, may I speak? I'm the liaison for our Parks and Rec Board.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to thank you, Ed,
All right.
for going out, grabbing bids for the reappropriation of our bathrooms. But I work with tools every day. I'm an industrial construction worker. So what I've noticed is that the people that work with me work best when you give them the tools that they ask for. And I want to make sure that our Parks and Rec Board has the tools. These are volunteers. They give time from their life to invest in this village. If we say, hey, we're council, we'll tell you what you need, then they'll lose their drive and likely quit. And
That's
we
part of council's responsibility to oversee and approve what's being done.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with when you start playing with taxpayer dollars, Dave. I'm sorry, but we have an existing building with an existing well tap. Why can't we use that and refurb it as opposed to spending? I don't know. I don't remember what the exact sum was, but it was more than what we need to spend right now, given the current fiscal issues going on.
And Mark, solid point. But it looks like.
Can anybody hear me?
We can multiply or leverage our money using the grant money if we're willing to just have.
If we get the grant. If we get the grant.
If we get the grant. But I don't think we should be lost on that because let's say, Ed is talking about a $50,000 building and it looks like we need to budget, but not necessarily spend $100,000 in order to gain a grant of $150,000 a year. It just seems that if we don't take advantage of that, we're foolish.
David, let me have my say because
I need to get in here.
We've been talking.
Okay, let's go to Walt and then we'll go to Mr. Malik here. Okay.
So we've been talking about this. I'm almost on the board for 2 years and it was a priority last year and we have done nothing. I think we need to do something. So that's why I agree with Ed's proposal that we add some storage, we refurbish the bathroom so it's handicap compliant and make it nice so that the residents that enjoy the park like they do, they can use it. We'll have some storage. If we get the grant later down the road, then we can talk about some next phases, what to do. But for now, we should just get it done.
So let's get it done. Agreed.
Okay, Bob.
But we have to have some respect for our boards.
Okay, Dave, let's let Mr. Malik have a couple minutes here. Go ahead, Bob. I think he's froze.
He is froze.
That figures.
And I'm gonna have to go back while we're waiting for Bob to come back online, that we have not seen any plans of where to implement anything from Park and Rec.
Okay.
I, as a council board,
Yep.
like-
Yeah, okay, guys. Well, here's my perspective on it while we're waiting to see about how Bob's kind of.
Well, let me say something.
There it is.
Okay.
I keep losing the audio, okay? Like right now.
We can hear
I
you.
lost it
We can hear
again.
you.
We can hear
So you
you.
want me to get out and get back in?
No, you're good right now, Bob.
Let's see.
Talk.
Now you froze again.
Bob, if you have a traditional telephone, feel free to call in over the traditional telephone line.
I keep losing.
Bob, can you hear us?
There he is. He's back.
Yeah, well, I don't know what's going on. I keep losing when you guys start talking.
Yeah. Bob,
I
do you
look-
have a traditional telephone?
No, yeah, I got a regular telephone, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm right on top of my computer with my iPad, and every
Sure.
other meeting
Let
works.
him go.
I keep losing the audio.
We hear you.
Okay.
You're good now, so give it a shot.
You want me to sign out and sign back in?
No.
No,
No,
you're
just
good right
go.
now.
I think as long as nobody else is talking,
Go ahead.
as long as nobody else is talking,
Yep.
you're good.
Okay, but when you gentlemen are having conversation, or ladies,
Go.
halfway through, I'll lose it.
Nope, he's gone again.
So my suggestion, Mr. Nedrow, is that Bob calls in. He can keep his feed going, his video
Yeah,
feed,
yeah.
but have him please call in over the traditional telephone.
Yeah. Can you hear that, Bob?
Yeah, what do I dial into?
So dial in to 312-626.
Wait a minute. Give it to me again. 312.
626 6799.
All right, just dial that number, 312-6799.
No, 312.
312-626-6799.
All right, 312-626-7. Give me the, you see, I keep losing it.
Yeah,
Bob,
can
it's on
you
the
see
front of the
us?
Council packet.
Write it on a piece of paper and hold it up.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to do, Ed.
Bob, it's on the front of the council packet.
It's on the top of the agenda, like Mark said.
All right, hang
Agenda.
on. Hang on.
Yeah, it's not fair that he doesn't get to hear the discussion.
All right, I see it now.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting followed by pound.
Hey, Bob, just make sure you mute yourself on the computer.
Ken can mute him.
Participant ID followed by pound.
Just the pound sign. Just pound sign for that one.
You entered 88596352229. This meeting password is valid. Please re-enter the meeting password.
All right, it's telling me the 885-9635-2219 is invalid.
Yeah, if you can hear me, you only need to enter the password now.
That's the 734048.
Yeah, well, I got to start all over again because it just gave me a dial tone.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
You know, this Zoom thing kind of reminds me of back when I was in high school, because I was in typing class
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Otherwise, just press pound.
Pound, only pound.
All right, so what do you want me to put in, the password?
Pound, no, pound, right now.
Hit pound.
Pound.
Any numbers. Please re-enter the meeting password followed by pound.
All right.
Now the password.
And then the pound sign.
You
Yes.
are in the meeting now.
I'm in.
All right. Whew.
In the meeting. This meeting is being recorded. You are muted. You have
Mute your computer.
or unmute yourself.
Mute your computer, Bob.
Can you mute him, Ken?
Yeah.
You know, the first time we did this, it wasn't so bad, but the last two have been a nightmare.
That's what I was gonna say.
Bob, can you hear us now?
Yeah,
Go ahead and mute your computer.
He's muted.
I hear you through the computer now, yeah.
No, we don't want, you need to hit the speaker mute on your computer.
Yeah, all I gotta do is find it.
Swear words.
You know what, guys? Never.
He can just sign off the computer and just use his phone.
Yeah.
Bob, you can turn off the computer if you'd like.
Yeah, but it won't let me.
Yeah,
There we
I took
go.
care of it. You're out.
How's that?
Better.
Oh,
We hear you.
perfect.
All right.
Is that a nightmare?
Yeah, okay, continue, Mr. Malik.
Yeah, well, now I got all kinds of static on the telephone, so
We can hear you
Muted
fine.
is fine though, Bob.
go ahead.
Bob, it's your floor. You wanted to say something about parks, right?
Well, yeah, I wanted to know, when do we have to have the grant in? That was my first question.
The grant it was already turned in, but the amendment phase won't be open till this fall, where right now they're scoring everything.
But we
Okay,
had to
no,
have
no.
the public hearing.
But we have to have the public hearing. This is that kind of a section, because of COVID, they allowed this to happen after. You still had to have the paperwork in, and we can always retract anything later, but so.
Yeah, well, that was my question. Was there a deadline on getting that paperwork in?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
already been turned in, Bob.
I know it's been turned in. I'm asking, what was the deadline?
It was April 1st.
Okay, well then, in compliance to answer the person that was questioning what we were doing, we didn't have a choice, okay? So if that person is listening or not, you know, we didn't do anything out of line as a council or a community.
No.
That was correct. And in
So
fact,
that I just wanted to get that in because, you know, that person was adamant about how we didn't do stuff properly. Well, we did do stuff properly.
I think we actually talked about that last meeting there, Bob.
right. And in addition to that, we wanted to make sure, we did delay the public hearing. We were hoping we were going to have this meeting in a regular setting.
True.
But because of the COVID stuff, we were not able to do that. And we needed to proceed further with the public hearing so that we could.
No, I understand that. I just don't like, as a council, us people being chastised for doing the proper thing.
Correct.
They chastised.
That's my point, okay? You know, nobody else is standing up here to try and do what we're doing, but they can all complain about it.
Yeah, amen.
Well, the other thing I'd like to mention too is we have had that the park master plan in place for quite a while.
Well, I think since 2017, I believe.
One of them, yeah, and then
16, I think.
But a lot of it's outdated.
And we had a lot of public input back during those time periods and throughout the last 4 or 5 years here also, so.
Right. All right, well, I got off my chest what I have to say. I just don't like people throwing stones at us for no reason.
Hey, Bob, right now, we're talking about those 2 restrooms, about retrofitting them, making them viable.
Well, I know, I caught the bits and pieces on that. And just to let you know, I'm for the remodeling of what we have because I've said it before. If we build new, we have to hook into the sewer and everything else. We can't go around it. So we're spending money. I'm a taxpayer before I'm a councilman, okay? I want it done, which is the most viable way for my tax dollars to be spent.
Agreed.
And I believe that the remodel of what we have is the way to go.
Look, it's a great point. The only thing that I would ask is that we at least bring in the opinion of our Parks and Rec chairman. And as council, yes, we can override any decision, and we also have to approve any decision. But if we don't ask the chairman of our boards, and not just the Parks and Rec, but also the Water Management Board, also the Zoning Board, we take away their ability to solve problems.
Dave, we fully understand their opinion. I think you've heard what we're talking about in terms of being fiscally responsible with taxpayer dollars. You have 4 council members that do not agree with them.
But
that's what it comes down to.
And all they're talking
They
about
want to shoot for the moon on it, and it's just not going to happen.
I'm
sorry.
I'm kind of a numbers guy, even though I'm just a plumber. And I don't understand why you'd spend $55,000 for a $55,000 building, or you'd spend $75,000 for a $250,000 building. I don't understand that math.
Your math is great, except I'd hate to see what the number is to run a line to hook into the sewer system.
It's $7,000.
Not to mention, we're not guaranteed to get the grant money. Okay. What we're saying right now is let's go forward and making something happen for a reasonable sum using taxpayer dollars versus taking and guessing whether or not we're going to get a grant and then not doing anything. That's what we're talking about.
It won't be not doing anything.
We've talked about this.
Hold on, guys. Hold on. Hey, everybody's had a whole lot of time to speak, and I haven't had hardly a chance to say anything. So can I interject for 1 minute here?
Please.
If y'all remember, a couple months ago, before all this COVID stuff started, we were going to have a joint meeting with Parks and Rec and Council to try to iron through and hash out some of the park improvements that we were looking at. Is that correct?
Yes. That way the Park and Rec Board could have some ownership.
Exactly. So that's what I'm suggesting that we do before we move along with this method. At this point is try to sit down with Parks and Rec.
All due respect, Mr. President, the last joint council session that we had with them was the idea that they spent a bunch of money on ripping it down and rebuilding it.
Yeah.
All due respect,
Well,
that is what happened.
That was
And not only that,
council members' attempts to help by redrawing
if
York.
Mr. President, Bob Mallet here. If we do that, this is already the middle of June. That means maybe by September or October, we'll have bathrooms that are usable so we can close them for the winter.
Yep.
And also,
let's do what's responsible for the community now.
Yeah, and also, every time,
so we can go out and bid on this.
Hold on here. Let's go one at a time here. So, Mr. Scott, you're up.
I just said, I think the proper procedure and the procedure we have to follow at council is not work off a hand draw. Let's go to Mr. Powell, get some prints, and be able to take this out for general construction bidding.
Totally agree. If we need a motion, I'll be more than happy to make a motion to do that.
And
I'll second that motion.
Look, we have to listen to our Parks and Rec Board. Their time up.
We've listened to them.
All we've been hearing from them is they want to build a big building with a restroom, a kitchen, an office. Now, that's something this village doesn't need in that park.
Why don't we let our boards have
Hold
some?
hold on here, everybody. We're getting a little out of hand. Everybody's trying to talk at the same time.
Right.
So if we're going to continue to do that, I'll stop and start to call on people. So go ahead, Walt.
So we made it a priority to work on the parks. One of the big things was improve the restrooms and make them handicap compliant. We are not going around the Park and Rec Board, and Ed's proposal includes some storage. How about we focus on getting that done? And then when we can actually get some good proposal, because I haven't seen, again, no plan from Parks and Recs and how we're going to do things and get things done, what the priorities are and what things we want to work on and what we want to spend the money on. So let's focus on getting the bathrooms done so that our community has a nice place to go and change their kids, use the restroom when they visit the park.
Exactly. So, Mr. President, you have a motion and a second, I believe, on the floor. Let's take and have a vote in terms of moving forward with it.
Okay, that was a motion by Duff, second by,
Malik.
who was it?
Malik.
Second by Malik. Discussion. Okay, Mr. Giamini would like to speak.
Thank you. Few things to go through just to clarify for you. Last year, the Parks and Rec Board selected a series of things that we thought were a priority for the next few years, one of which was a park center. That was then brought to the Park Capital Expenditures Committee, which voted on it and submitted it to council. At that point, council approved $100,000 for a building which we then pursued prints for and plans for. And our original building was modeled around the same building that is in Hickory Glen Park. In no way audacious or oversized or too much for anything. All we did was take the inside of it and move some things around to make it more usable for us. We then ran into several issues. Council wasn't happy with various aspects of it, including the exterior. And from there, we then tried to solve some new ideas. And then at that joint meeting, it was determined that we should try and do a combined building. Walt put together some very readable prints, some very fine prints, but for us on the board, we felt the building was too limiting. So we wanted to have another joint meeting to better evaluate those things. Unfortunately, COVID-19 has blown everything up and made that very difficult or impossible to do. But at one point, council had approved $100,000 for this project. So the idea that somehow you're so concerned for taxpayer dollars, but before you were putting up 100,000 to a building that we were going to be able to put to good use.
That was before COVID.
I'm speaking, sir. In addition,
excuse me.
In terms of Mr. Kukowicz's building, things that I would just want to make you aware of. The utility boxes that are on the current back of the current bathrooms, we do use for events. People do plug in for them. So I'm not sure how effective that would be if they are now in an enclosed structure. And so that could be an issue of concern.
That could be wired.
Work on the
Really relocated. I put them on there.
Illumination, and also because there is a lot of problems with illumination, ventilation as well. And then additionally, in terms of the savings on the sewer, at some point that septic will fail and we will be switching to the sewer. That is not a permanent savings of any kind, but instead one that is only a delay. Obviously, there is no way for me to stop council, but I do think that the idea of having another joint meeting where it is a more from scratch rather than where we met last year, I think that was one of the big failures of last year was there was progress being made, but then the joint meeting happened 9 months later. Starting from scratch and having the meeting there would at least then allow everybody to be on the same page. And then if council wants to continue on with this, very well, but at least you would then have effective and honest input from the people who are going to be using these facilities the most and be putting that building to use, including the storage area, the most.
Okay, Mark, how about then we renovate the bathrooms and get them handicap compliant? And then if we get the grant money, we can do all the other stuff that is wanted to do. I don't have any problem with the 100 grand that we allocated previously. It's just that what you guys want from the Park and Rec Board is going to be more than 100 grand. So if we can get grant money, then we can do it. So how about we just renovate the bathroom so we can at least accomplish something for our residents?
And personally, I don't think that we want a kitchen in there. I'm sorry, I just don't feel that we need a kitchen in that building. Period.
Mr.
Mark, what do you
President,
think about it?
I think it would be nice to have a kitchen in there eventually, but that,
why?
not in the budget right now, Ed. I'm not saying now.
What are we, you're building a rec center for who? The board? or
I'm
the
not
people?
saying a full-blown rec center. I'm suggesting
But that's what they're asking for, Mr. President.
Yeah, you're gonna put heat.
they were
in there.
looking at that, yes. That's exactly why I think we need to have another joint meeting with them to try to iron out how we can move forward with this.
Well, Mr. President, I'd like to call for a vote.
Yep, call for a vote.
Okay.
What was the motion again?
The motion that we move forward with Ed's design to go out for bid for
Ed's design?
How about it? How about this? Can we, Ed,
How about
can we
Park and
alter it?
Rec's design?
Can we
Yeah,
just,
let's,
hold on.
if I can, it's my motion. I'll withdraw it. And let's start over. I think it's important that we do some sequencing here and get this in proper thought process. And I appreciate what you're saying, Walt. And I also appreciate what you're saying, Mark and David. If we want to start with the bathrooms, let's get that put together and let's get it properly bid. And let's also go and have a joint meeting so this council and the community can better understand why the thought process was put behind Mark and the Park and Recs. I don't think
Can I make a motion?
I'll second that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain
Well, we got a motion on the floor.
Oh, he just withdrew it.
I made, second by
I
Bob,
seconded his withdraw and then remotion.
except for I already made a motion and Bob seconded it. We haven't voted on it.
I haven't heard your motion, Mark. What is your
Yeah.
motion?
I made a motion that we move forward in terms of getting bids for Ed's concept of reutilization of the bathrooms and bringing them to an actual construction drawing.
With
That's
or
what I
without
meant.
the input of the Park and Recs people?
Excuse me?
With or without any interim meeting, which would include members of the Park and Recs boards, the people who use the facility, plan for the community, and do hours and hours of voluntary service around which they can build other ideas. And that's what started this a year and a half ago.
Yeah, but we're not going around them, Ed. We're not going around, or John, I mean, all we want to do is renovate the bathrooms and
We
then.
want to renovate the bathrooms and actually get something there.
Well, that's what I thought you said, Walt, but I'm hearing Ed's plans.
Yeah, I'd like to edit Mark's motion if we could do that and not include the storage and just redo the bathrooms. And like you said, John, then we can work with Park and Rec Board. And if we get the grant money, we can do whatever we need to do to make that work.
Okay.
Before we go any farther,
I want to second John's motion.
well, wait, I
I
got.
didn't make a
No, no,
motion.
no.
I have a
Wait,
motion.
Wait,
we're
wait, wait.
discussing it.
Mark has a motion.
Mark has a motion.
I don't know who seconded it, but,
Bob Malik seconded it.
and then Walt just suggested an amendment to that motion, and I don't know if Mark, you're,
No, I'm not agreeable to that.
No,
What's
let's
that?
do it like this. No, just don't forget.
Okay, let's call for the vote then. We'll call for the
Wait a
vote.
minute. One last discussion. Don't forget that Mark was appointed by council to meet with the Parks and Rec and to get something done. And everything that was approached, they didn't like. It wasn't big enough. It
Not
wasn't,
me.
Not Mark.
Walt.
Not
I
Mark.
mean, well. Anyway. they
Okay,
told me-
well, let's
I've
vote
heard
on the
for-
motion
I've
at
heard
hand.
for 20 years that they need storage at the park. Whether it's for DPW stuff or it's for the corn roast or Parks and Rec. So I'm thinking the bathrooms would probably be someplace around 15, maybe. But I think that's a hell of a deal to get the.
Well, we've got a motion on the table, so let's call the vote. I'm gonna call a vote. So the
Okay.
motion is
Could you repeat
move
the
along, to move along
In terms of construction drawings, simple.
Okay.
with construction drawings and
a quote.
bids on the drawing that Ed put together. Is that
Without
correct?
bringing in the Park and Rec Board, right?
Yes,
Right.
So just council.
yes.
Yes.
That's the motion, so.
Did you get that, Hannah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so here's a roll call vote.
York,
Yes.
Sinkowitz,
Yes.
Dumont,
No.
Duff,
Yes.
Malik,
Yes.
Scott,
No.
Nedrow,
No. Motion passes, I guess. 4-3, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Fucking disgraceful.
Excuse me?
What?
Public
Come on, guys.
meeting.
Come on,
What
guys.
did you
Come
say?
on.
You
Enough.
should
Turn your
have your
TV off
clothes.
and
It's
go
over
home.
with.
David, it's just to get drawings and a bid. It still has to go to vote to get done.
Thank you, Walter.
Enough of that stuff, guys. Come on.
Yep.
Be professional.
Yeah,
Let's move
David, that was bad. I
Okay,
can tell
let's
for
move
sure
on,
that
guys.
was bad.
We're moving on.
Yes, let's go on.
Okay, so we'll go to Mr. Giamini on Parks and Rec updates. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. President. Parks and Rec did meet for the first time in a couple months in May. Faced with decisions on what to do about the summer events, we elected as a group to cancel these summer events due to the uncertainty of COVID-19, following just guidelines from other larger Parks and Rec entities and their advice as well, and reading into their ideas of how difficult it is to put on events. We also elected this year to unfortunately cancel the corn roast, as we don't see a way to effectively execute it with the limitations placed upon us by both the virus itself and the regulations from the governor, depending on what phase we're in. Even in phase 5, which we're currently in, outdoor gatherings are currently limited to 250 people. In lieu of that, the corn roast, we've elected to do a very basic concert in the park on that day, where the band that we had booked for the corn roast will perform, and it will otherwise be bring your own everything, including chairs and food, etc., a way for people to get outside and see something, but something that will be low cost, low density, and hopefully will at least be able to give some folks a good time, but won't be at risk should we revert back to an earlier phase or anything like that. We also formed the Beautification Subcommittee officially and had our first meeting. At that meeting, we made the decision to, it turns out a very good decision based on the decisions that were made at your meeting that night, to pursue improvements at the electric signs and the village hall itself and the signage there and just the general landscape there, to do some plantings and things like that, those areas, to try and get them to be just a little more attractive. And as we learned with the that you might be acquiring new monument signs or signs to replace the monument signs, that worked out pretty well, since any new plantings could very well have been destroyed. And that's all I got for it.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, moving on. Resolution for approving the 2020 grant application for submittal Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund for Claire Miller Park improvements and renovations. Need a motion to. Who was that?
Me.
Mark Duff
Okay.
and David Dumont.
That was a motion by Duff, second by Dumont. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Any discussion?
Now, is this for the 200 and the 300?
That's correct.
Yes, that's how it's written right now.
200, 100 for 2 years. And that we would, if we are successful on the grant, we would be receiving up to $300,000.
Correct. Just might I point of clarification for some items?
Sure.
Sure.
I did reach out to Mary Carlock, who is the grant coordinator, and she did state that currently we're under the preliminary scoring, and then once that's released, we're under the supplemental period. At that time, which is in this fall, they're released to us in about September. She stated that at that time you can amend your original application that was submitted on April 1st, which means you can't go higher than your first request, but you can decrease items. You can pull off items. You could do like change orders or whatever as request, and then resubmit that. So you could pull off the specific restroom if you so chose, and then just make it. You can actually, there's an item that states you can actually say concession building. I know that's just the way they label it too, which could in essence be storage building. And you could change and you can add different amounts, like we have bike racks, access pathway like we talked about to do better paths to the parking and to the playground equipment, bleachers, a new shelter, the picnic tables, the rain garden. All of this stuff was outlined originally in the Clara Miller Park Master Plan. That's what we kind of followed, was that plan that was discussed and approved under that. With all of those things where along Benstein, you'd have rain gardens along there to create that buffer space, and then to move the original equipment to an old town zone, I guess is what we had talked about, kind of where the horseshoe pits aren't, but are, and then kind of coordinate and make a universal design with the playground equipment and the safety surfacing for that. So what she stated again is that you can pull off items, you can change the amount, you can decrease the amount, you just can't increase it. So right now you could pass the motion where you state you want less, that's up to the council. I just wanted to clarify that. And we've done everything in the books with what we're supposed to do with posting. I talked to the state about it, all the statements that were brought up. We posted as we were supposed to. You didn't have to mail out to everyone. As long as you posted online, you had a certified date. We put it in the final column. We did email blast. We did the website. We fulfilled all the requirements on that end as far as posting goes. And we've allowed everyone, actually, it seems like more opportunity because you can call in, you can watch it. You could email me questions. You could come down here. So that's actually even more opportunities. I just want to clarify those points.
Clarification. So once we approve this and then we end up getting it, do we have to follow the master plan exactly the way it is instead of moving all the equipment or doing this and that?
No, you can work with them and show things like they work with because you have to do engineering plans, and by the time that comes to fruition next year, you submit that and you work with the grant coordinator and the team at the National Trust Fund to state what you're kind of reallocating and reassessing how the engineering comes into play.
Okay.
And so we can decrease the amount if we wanted to spend it at that point too, Ed. There's nothing sure that we're going to get this grant anyways.
Yeah, I was just wondering, to make sure that what's in the master plan is, the law. That's what you got to do.
There's a lot of flexibility in those grants.
Good. Okay.
The biggest thing is the matching, approving how much, as you just stated with the approval of removing the restroom. So do you still want to allocate 100,000 towards the entire thing or decrease that? I think that's what the question is now. What's the prior motion you just passed?
No, why don't we move on with the 100,000? I don't see the issue with that. We can take some from here and move it over to something else.
I agree.
Agreed.
Okay.
Vote.
Roll call vote, please.
York? Yes.
Sankwitz?
Yes.
Dumont?
Yes.
Duff?
Yeah.
Malik?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Nedrow?
Yes. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. Next one is a resolution approving a letter of understanding by and between the Village of Wolverine Lake and the Wolverine Lake Department of Public Works, Local 7220. And this is basically to extend the contract that was due up at the end of the month. Is that correct, Mr. Smith?
Yes.
So, and with the COVID stuff, there just was not time to be able to meet and negotiate with the ASME local at this point. So we're looking at probably a July or August timeframe to start the process and work through it. So
You need a motion?
I already made one.
I'll second it.
Motion by Duff, second by Sinkowitz. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
York?
Yep.
Sankwitz?
Yes.
Dumont?
Yes.
Duff?
Yep.
Malik,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Nedro,
Yes. Okay, recommendation, item D, recommendation from the Administrative Committee regarding non-union administrative employee wages of for fiscal year 1920 and 2021. Mr. Smith, anything?
No, those are the two
Yeah.
recommendations that happened before COVID and since we met in May for moving forward. So there's kind of the 2 fiscal years.
Mr. Condek, any comments? Oh, he's muted.
No, I have
There you
no
are.
comments, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you.
Approve that.
That was a motion by Mr. Duff,
Second by Malik.
second by Mr. Malik. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
York,
Yes.
Sinkowitz,
Yes.
Dumont,
Yes.
Duff,
Yep.
Malik,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Nedro.
Yes. 2 more resolutions and we're through with those. So next resolution is approving the amendment to the agreement for IT services by and between the Village of Wolverine Lake and Oakland County regarding enhanced access fees.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion by Duff, second by Mr. Malik. Any discussion? Mike Smith, would you like to comment?
This is actually, Mike received this from Oakland County. This is just a formality, a pure administrative thing that we have to update our IT services agreement, right? I believe maybe Mike could say.
Right, Mr. Condek?
Yeah, the issue has to do with waiving fees when people are paying online. And the County Board of Commissioners voted to just nullify all fees through, I think now June 30th, because it's technically an amendment to a 64-page document. The county's kind of asking that we acquiesce in that, and that's really all that it entails. So anybody paying online now, instead of paying the upcharges and so forth, can do so without any sort of additional fees.
Okay, thank you. Roll call vote, please.
York,
Yes.
Sinkowitz,
Yes.
Dumont,
Yes.
Duff,
Yep.
Malik,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Nedro.
Yes, and finally, the last resolution, approving the West Nile Virus Fund expense reimbursements request under Oakland County's West Nile Virus Program.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We'll give that one, that was a motion by Duffs. We'll give it to York, I think.
Ready to rock.
Any discussion on this? This is just for reimbursement for the West Nile virus activity that we could or have done for mosquito control in the village.
Yep.
So, roll call vote.
York,
Yes.
Sinkowitz,
Yes.
Dumont,
Yes.
Duff,
Yes.
Malik,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Nedro.
Yes. Okay, moving along to budget. First motion we would need, this would be to adopt the proposed fiscal budget for 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Duff, second by Dumont.
Actually, I think York was right behind me.
I gave York the last one, so.
Yeah, that's all right.
Give it a couple seconds in between. Any discussion regarding this?
Mr. President, there's a couple of things that we had talked about, the budget. And I don't know if it's locked in or not, but I understand that we wanted to build carports for the boat and the 2 vehicles that are police vehicles, what you call it,
The ordinance and the new.
yes,
Tahoe.
yeah. Is that something that we're planning on doing, or is that still in the discussion phase?
I thought we agreed upon that.
Well,
I thought it was in a discussion phase because I don't believe it's in the budget amendments or Have you put that in there, Mr. Conduct?
I did, Mr. President.
I
Did you?
thought
Okay.
you on that.
Okay. I just want to comment on that and one other thing. Probably 80% of the vehicles in this village are left outside year round. Because the 2-car garage maybe holds 1 car and another side is full of equipment, junk, swimming, fishing, stuff like that. And I can't see why we need another 2 structures like that, so that if it snows, they don't have to brush the snow off the car before they go. We all do that every morning, and I don't think that's something that we really need. And as far as the boat goes, almost every boat in this community is all shrink wrapped, and they stay outside of their park someplace. And that shrink wrapping works fine. And I don't understand why we have to build some kind of a structure. I don't know if they're talking about a concrete floor, just some poles and a top. I think that's frivolous spending.
Give them the tools they need.
Pardon me?
At this point, I think it's just a budget item anyway, so
Yeah.
I would expect that we would be looking at
in terms of when you
approving.
vote on it, Ed.
We'd
All
be
right.
approving at some point a cost down the road, so.
Okay.
Is there anything else regarding the budget? Questions? Okay, roll call vote on the first motion there.
York,
Yes.
Sinkwitz,
Yes.
Dumont,
Yes.
Duff,
Yes.
Malik,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Nedrow.
Yes. Second motion would be to adopt the appropriations resolution, item 2 there.
So moved.
Who was that? That Walt? Okay.
Second.
Motion by York, second by Duff. Any discussion on this one? Okay, roll call vote, please.
York,
Yes.
Sinkwitz,
Yes.
Dumont,
Yes.
Duff,
Yes.
Malik,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Nedrow.
Yes. Third motion regarding the budget would be establish a millage rate for fiscal year 2021 at the rate of 9.573 mils.
I'll make that.
Second. Motion by Sinkowitz, second by Duff. And discussion wise, I'd just like to mention that this was the same millage rate that we've had in effect, I believe, since 1996. Is that correct?
Right.
So, any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
York,
Yes.
Sinkwitz,
Yes.
Dumont,
Yes.
Duff,
Yes.
Malik,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Nedrow.
Yes. Fourth motion would be to set the tax collection fee. And I believe, Mr. Conduct, you could probably explain that a little bit.
Yeah, what that is, Mr. President, is by charter, we impose a 2% penalty. Let me back up. We send bills out at the end of June. They're due at the end of August. If they're not paid at the end of August, there's a 2% penalty imposed for the month of September. And then subsequent to that, starting in October, there's an additional 0.5% per month. Our tax collection season ends at the end of February. So the maximum penalty that could be accumulated is 4.5%. So that's where that comes from. Under my comments later on, I want to inform you or keep you abreast of some possible changes from the Michigan legislature about that. But for right now, I think that motion would be completely appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Move.
Any other discussion?
So
Roll
moved.
call vote? What's that?
I don't think you had a second, did you?
Moved.
Second.
Yeah.
Who's who?
I thought we had both on that.
Moved.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we had York. That was York and Duff, right?
Dumont.
That actually was Duff and Scott.
Dumont
Okay.
and Scott.
Okay.
I did that first, though.
Okay.
Whatever.
Roll call anyways.
All vote.
York,
Yes.
Sinkwitz,
Yes.
Dumont,
Yes.
Duff,
Yep.
Malik,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Nedro.
Yes, and the first Zoom meeting went a heck of a lot smoother than this one has.
True.
We're getting progressively worse. Hopefully this is the last. Final, we have one more, well, two more, actually. Fifth motion would be to waive the 4.5% penalty on summer deferred taxes from February 16th, 2021 through March 1st, 2021 for all who receive a deferment. Mr. Conduct could speak to this hopefully a little bit.
Yeah, this has been extant for, wow, generations. What it has to do with is people who find themselves in difficult economic circumstances. They're senior citizens, disabled, what have you, can apply to Commerce for a waiver of having to pay that additional penalty. And even the Oakland County Board of Commissioners gives them additional time through the end of April so that they are not forced to pay any interest or penalties. Again, it's income qualified, and there are other criteria, but by custom, we've done this.
Very good. Thank you for clarifying.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that was motion by Duff, second by Scott. Roll call vote on that one, please.
York,
Yes.
Senkwitz,
Yes.
Demont,
Yes.
Duff,
Yep.
Malik,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Nedro.
Yes, and finally, last motion for the budget tonight would be addition of special assessments and delinquent bills to the 2020 tax roll. So.
How does that work?
Motion.
That was Senkowitz, motion by Senkowitz,
I'll second it.
second by Duff. And this is a motion to direct the village treasurer to add the current special assessment installments, delinquents, special adjustments and delinquent bills excluding those paid by July 1st, 2020, the 2020 tax roll. So.
How does that work?
Any discussion?
Question
How
for
does
me.
that work?
We have special assessments, you know, the infrastructure improvements, the tie-ins and so forth. Instead of billing them separately, we simply add the annual installment to a given, we put it on the tax roll. We also have some people that don't pay their water bills. And if they're 2 or more months past due or delinquent as of December 31st, they are prone or subject to being added to the tax roll as well. And the third category would be, you know, if we've had to do some sort of maintenance on property, whether that be, you know, lot mowing or any sort of maintenance. If it remains unpaid, this is work that would have been done last year. If it remains unpaid, we add it to the tax roll.
Does it affect our trash line item?
Well, we add that on as a matter of, it's sort of, for discussion purposes here, it's a special assessment in a sense. We applied, this year's rate is going to be $185 and change. We're going to apply that to every residential property taxpayer, in addition to some commercial taxpayers who also happen to use GFL as their refuse recycle company.
But that dollar amount is applied separate still.
It's a separate item on everybody's tax bill. That's correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like a separate
will
special
continue.
assessment line item.
Right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
The items
well-
that Mr. Condek is talking about, they're statutory items that you can assess. The garbage collection is a cost of service, essentially. So there's a little difference between your assessment and your grass cutting or unpaid water bills. That's
Right.
the difference on your it all gets put on your tax bills, but that's just for accounting purposes.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. And because I know Councilman Sinkowitz, it would rather move that over into the general fund. And I understand Ed's point. I just want to know, is there a benefit, since we're talking about this, for the village financially to doing that?
Well, I'm not sure I quite understand your point, but the rationale is that we're trying to cover the costs that GFL charges the village. So I have we are under contract through the year 2021, calendar 2021. they've baked in 3% increases per year. So what I do is prior to or during the course of preparing the budget, I take those costs into consideration. I also take into account the amount that they're charging us for leaf collection. They, as you know, maintain a truck and personnel and also some tipping fees for those leaves. So when I have that cost they send me a separate invoice for that. I add that to the total and I just break that down on a proportional basis to, well, I shouldn't say proportional basis. It has nothing to do with value. It's a per household charge. So when you're looking at the general fund, you see the revenue from that fee in the general fund. You also see the expense that we have from GFL within the
expense divided by address.
Divided by household, yeah.
Household. Okay. Yeah.
You know, it's not address necessarily. It's more household.
Right.
You know, in other words, I don't charge it on vacant properties. I don't charge it on you know, any of the commercial properties unless they're contractually bound up with GFL.
And if you have 3 lots, you're essentially one household on 3 lots. You're only charged once.
If you're one house, it's one charge. That's correct.
Right.
It's a true user fee. So it's different than like special assessments that get assessed per lot. This is a user fee. So it's per use. If you're a vacant lot, you're not using garbage collection, right? There's no charge.
Understood. Thank you. And I apologize for taking extra time to counsel.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion on the table. So roll call vote, please.
York,
Yes.
Sinkwitz,
Yes.
Dumont,
Yes.
Duff,
Yep.
Malik,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Nedrow.
Yes. Okay, before we get to setting topics for the work session, I believe Mr. Powell's back with us, so we'll revert back to pathway project.
Oxymoron.
What's that?
Revert back, oxymoron.
Okay. Okay, Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Council, and I want to apologize and thank you very much for your patience. I had a major issue that I had to take care of, so thank you for your patience. I wanted to bring the council up to date on the pathways. As you know, I had said that there was a problem with the road commission on the pathway along Benstein Road and along Oakley Park Road. I did get a hold of the head permits engineer. We went over all of the concerns of his subordinate, and council actually made a very wise decision by pulling that pathway back from Glengarry Road. It took away really all of the road commission's major concerns of approaching that intersection and getting too close to the roadway. So he made a verbal commitment to me to issue those permits as we have them drawn up. We obviously can't really start construction until he actually provides those permits to us. He did verbalize that he would approve those. He kind of promised me that he'd have it in writing so I could present it to you, council, tonight. And he didn't come through for me tonight. And I know that's a surprise to you, but in any event, I have every intent to pull the contractors in and start the pathway along Benstein Road before your next meeting. And the one along Oakley Park Road, of course, will be totally constructed by a Redwood company. So they will take that construction on. They're in the middle of another pathway right now. And as soon as they get done with that, they'll move to the village to put that pathway in. That'll be 2 really important pathways that will be done here, hopefully in the next 30 to 45 days in the village.
Great news.
Yeah, that's very, very good news. We've waited a long time for that.
Yep.
Item number 2, the payment for asphalt specialist. I've gone through every single roadway that was in the 2019 paving program, walked, drove, and I even was able to get on my motorcycle to enjoy the roads within the village. Marked down every crack within the new roadways. I was extremely pleased in how they fared through the winter. Virtually nothing on the south side of the village. I couldn't even see a crack in the new pavement on the south part of the village. I did find a number of cracks on Roselawn, a couple on Terry, and even more on Glen Cove. And so the contractor has been out there as well. He and I still have to meet because we have a little difference of opinion, but they are committed and per contract and quite frankly by the money we're holding to repair those areas. That being said, I've done an estimate and I believe that all of my concerns can be done for about the $7,500 cost. And so I just arbitrarily doubled that for safety factor. And I thought that I would put before you a request of the contractor to whittle down their retainage amount and to about $15,000 from the $37,000. And so it's just a recommendation up to obviously your approval to pay them in the amount of $22,341.50.
Mike.
Yes.
It moved. Yeah.
Okay.
That's great.
Second.
Motion by Dumont, second by Duff, I think.
York had it before me.
York had it? Okay, we'll give it to York then.
Yep. We not trying to kiss, but we appreciate you, Mike, more than you know.
Thank you.
Okay, so we had a motion, any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
York,
Yes.
Sinkwitz,
Yes.
Dumont,
Yes.
Duff,
Yep.
Malik,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Nedrow.
Yes. Okay, thank you. And then last is the update recommendation of Vita Trail parking lot extension.
Yes, thank you, Council. I am hoping that each one of you have had an opportunity to walk out to the park area and see the area that I have delineated for the new expanded parking lot. I moved to the east on the entrance drive a little more than 5 feet and laid that out to allow for the ease of traffic in and out so they don't interfere with each other nearly as much. And then I expanded it along the south side to allow for people to back out and pass each other in the lot. And then I moved it approximately 82 feet to the west, which brings it within 25 feet of the memorial location. I also met the landscape architect for the monument out there. He and I went over that. We delineated and painted out the new monument area and the pathway to that monument area. And at least I haven't had any conversation with the committee, but he seemed to be extremely pleased with the proposal. Unfortunately, what I wanted to do with council tonight is to make a recommendation for an award for a contractor. I only received one bid, and I do not feel comfortable sharing that with council. I have two other contractors that would very much still want to bid on it, but because of the coronary virus thing and people working from home, they just could not give me two more bids. I just wouldn't feel comfortable without council having at least 3 bids on this. And so I apologize, but I have to put that recommendation off till next month.
Okay.
Mike, this is Ed. Do we need any motion for that, or are you just going to do it?
No, I won't award anything, but next month I will have all the contractors that are going to bid on it, and I'll have a recommendation to council so that, and I'll kind of key in if the contractor that I think is low and is still qualified, I'll key him in to try to schedule that so that he can get started on that just as soon as possible.
Super respect, Michael.
You weren't here, but we voted on approving the bathroom drawings that I put. Needless to say, they have to be put in a form that people can bid on. I'm sure that's something that you can do, correct?
I can absolutely do that. And in reality, they should probably be sealed as well. And so I'd be glad to look at those, draw them up, run them by the administrator and myself, and then seal that and give it to the building department.
Okay.
Thank you.
Michael, did Ron, the gentleman who designed the memorial, did he get in touch with you? He had a contractor he said he was going to recommend to you, but he didn't get it out by our last meeting.
Yes, that was Bush Paving. And that's one of the contractors that I'm hoping will do a good job bidding this out. Ron, quite frankly, is taking this job very personally, like the rest of us. And I'm anxious to see his finished plans.
Okay.
Anything else for Mr. Powell?
Thank you, Council, for your patience again.
Just one question, Mike. Is there any update on the McCoy Algae Pond?
Oh, yes, I'm going to actually turn that one over to Mr. Smith. I think the engineering's pretty well set, but we're having a little issue on the agreement. So, Mr. Administrator?
That's basically all I can update right now. We're still in conversation with the homeowner on Killarney. We're still talking about that. And
okay.
Leanne and Jennifer on that agreement.
It's tough when we can step over each other on Zoom. So I just wanted to, and many have, thank you, Michael, for caring about our village. And at this point, I'm talking about engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Dumont. The village is my home.
I believe that.
Okay, moving forward, set topics for the June 24th, 2020 work session.
I make a motion, we cancel that work session.
Okay. Just question to Mr. Smith at this point, or even Mr. Ellsworth. Do you feel that we might be able to get moving forward, maybe next month to have a regular meeting in place?
The executive order expires June 30th. So in July, we are allowed to, I guess, meet again with social distancing recommendations in person. So we'll have all those things in place for the July 8th meeting to come back to council.
Well, maybe at that point we could schedule a July joint meeting with Parks and Rec then also.
That'd be great.
At that point,
assuming things don't change.
Right. Yep. Well,
things are.
Never know.
Yes.
It's fluid. That's for sure right now. So we had a motion by, I believe it was Mr. Malik.
Right.
Second by who?
Ed,
Yes.
Okay, we'll give it to Ed to cancel the June 24th work session. Any discussion? All in favor, I guess we can give it that one.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, moving on to, I don't believe we have any other pending business at this point.
No.
Update from Police Chief Ellsworth.
I really don't have anything to add other than thank you for Celeste, adding Celeste to our team. I think she's going to be a great addition. Obviously, things are starting to return to normal, but so far our crime rate is down 47%, which is great for this year. However, next year when May comes along, they're going to wonder why it's up so much. But that's the cost of doing business, and that's what happens when your numbers are small as it is.
Yeah.
Other than that, we're continuing working through this, and hopefully we can get back to our new normal, whatever that's going to be. Other than that,
really,
hopefully also we can do our tiki night with no fireworks. We're still going to have a pretty good force out here, and
there's going to be fireworks, Chief.
Yes, I completely get that, and that's why we will still have somebody on the lake until midnight. We're asking people to wind it down early again this year, but yeah, it's going to be definitely a different tiki night for sure.
Chief, speaking for myself, and I'm sure council and a lot of the residents, through this pandemic, you made a lot of people feel comfortable and safe in the community, and you did a hell of a job. I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to, can I, Mr. President, can I?
Go ahead, Walt.
I'd like to thank you as well, Chief, for keeping us updated and all the hard work that you've done tracking this. And then as well, the amount of work that the patrol staff has done on the lake.
That's what I was gonna say, yeah.
Can't we do that in council comments?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Condit, treasurer update.
Mr. President, I just wanted to make council aware of some pending legislation that looks likely to pass. It has to do with property tax collections. And I think in general, what it's saying is that people who can demonstrate some sort of problems or issues with being able to pay their property taxes can have them deferred for an extended period of time. They have to make application to the local treasurer. Again, the devil is in the details. We're not going to be doing any sort of background checks. I think it's pretty much a situation where we have to take people at their word. But what's likely to happen is that you can't defer everybody until the end of the tax collection season, which would be February. You wouldn't have any cash flow. There'd be problems that would come about as a result of that. So what happens is that I think, if I understand it correctly, come October, the county, Oakland County, is supposed to make us whole. And in addition to that, I think they're either going to, I'm not sure exactly where they're going to get the funds to do that, but the bottom line is we're not in any danger of not having our property taxes collected. What's likely to be at stake is the amount of interest and penalty that we collect through the course of the year, and that amounts to $4,200. Now, bear in mind that we can't, or this legislation, proposed legislation, doesn't apply to people who have escrow arrangements through banks or mortgage companies or whatever. They're going to pay as usual. In our case, in our particular case, the village's case, it's about half and half. Half the people pay taxes on their own, half of them have escrow arrangements. So whatever you're hearing or whatever you may hear, it's not that we're going to be losing property tax revenue. It's that we're going to forego interest and penalty. And under the circumstances, it's something we can well afford.
Hey, thank you. Mr. Smith.
Yes, good evening. I have a couple things. Again, we have been officially reopened since June 1st to the public, and we'll continue to have visitors complete health check paperwork to come in, get their temperature taken while they're wearing masks. Of course, if you have religious or health things, you don't have to wear it. Those caveats. We'll continue to evaluate and post updates as we see them, as we hear from the state and the federal government, CDC. I want to thank all the employees for all their work, their hard work during the COVID update, pandemic, and then also getting back into the work. I've seen the DPW out there, the ladies and Mike, and code enforcement officer, and everyone. It's been get everyone back in. The dump truck, the old dump truck, and the old Dodge Charger are getting a lot of interest on the Bidcore auction site, and they'll be up, I think, Thursday and Friday. So we'll hope to get those. We got more than, so far the bidding is anticipated, so that's a good. Tiki Night candles, I'm sure President Nedra will talk about that. They are on sale. Check the website. We did post about that. Tabitha's going to send out an email blast regarding how to purchase those and all of that. Fencing Boardwalk, reminder, will be closed from June 15th through June 29th for maintenance, power washing, and sealing. We're going to have barricades up so the residents can't walk down there. So we're going to, we're doing an email blast on our website. We'll do social media so residents know as they come up to that point, they can't go on the boardwalk. So we'll be working on that with the company. Andy's been working on fixing all the boards, and some of the employees, Todd and Doug, have been working on it. I guess the question that's come up now is, it's kind of, again, during all this time, we haven't had a consistent, every community's been handling things differently. And the question now is, do you want to open the public restrooms at Clara Miller Park? We could start with, say, a tentative date of July 1st. Andy has some prep work he has to do for bacterial testing that he stated. So to kind of get it up and going, it could be 1 or 2 weeks. That's why I said maybe shoot for a July 1st date. We can try and see if we can find sanitizer pump stations for outdoors. I know there are companies that I was able to contact. They have that post right there. Put a sign up that basically says we don't sanitize, and that's where a lot of communities are going on. Is, you know, they have staff. We don't have staff that can be there sanitizing the bathrooms after each use, and a park attendant or anything like that. But there are communities that are opening them with the signage that states these aren't cleaned. Basically, use at your own risk. We can even put, I know that doors, I know restaurants are doing it where they put you don't have to touch the handle. You can actually put your foot on the door and open it. And we, Andy and I talked about different approaches. So there's less contact sites and surfaces that they're using. But that's kind of a discussion. I guess, I don't know if you want to have that. That's comfortable. But we can kind of target a July 1st because we talked about the water pump as well. That's over there because people have been asking about that in the park to get that up and running again. I don't know how.
Administrator, I'd like to, can we put, will that, oh, we won't have a next meeting before then. I wish it would have been an agenda item. Can we, do we need a vote on that, or can we just agree to
I just
open them,
wanted
join?
I just wanted to get a consensus of what you thought with, you know, just approaches, because some councils are just saying, no, they're not. And Jennifer might be able to weigh in like the.
Yeah, if we're allowed to, I would think like that we could open them with some signage.
Yeah. All of my other communities, they opened their public restrooms this week.
Yeah.
But they're just monitoring like their DPS or whoever's monitoring them. And
we have
I think that'd be great. I think with the amount of traffic that we're getting in the park, I mean, it'd be really nice to be able to have the water pump working. And I mean,
Yeah,
somebody's going to have to go take a leak somewhere. So, I mean, it'd be better off going in the bathroom.
Yeah, better than the bushes.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the water pump, are you talking about the drinking fountain?
Yes.
No, the actual pump that's by the parking lot, by the ball field, number 2, I think, the old fashioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hand pump.
The hand pump, yeah.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
So a lot of people fill it up with jugs for the water. So just FYI, candidate filing applications, I've been asked by a handful of you. I did pick them up. They are here. So if you want to come in tomorrow, whenever you want, the filing deadline to run for council is July 21st. And I do have about 10 applications here at Village Hall. That's anyone, so you know. Offices will, of course, be closed on July 3rd in observance for the 4th of July. So I hope, since we won't, it's already June 10th, but we won't be seeing anyone since the work session's closed. So wish everyone a happy 4th of July. And I know we'll be in contact before then, of course, but that's all I have for tonight.
Okay. Council comments. We'll start with Mr. Malik.
Okay, you're not going to like this, but I've been a resident here 43 years next month. I've been on council on and off for like 15 years. I've been to zoning board meetings, council meetings, planning commission, water board, and never have I heard anyone speak the way Mr. Dumont did tonight. And I really think you owe this community an apology. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Mr. Duff.
Go one step further. I think we should censure Mr. Dumont for his mouth.
I agree.
It was inappropriate.
Well, that's totally council's.
I make a motion that we censor Mr. Dumont.
Second.
Motion by Duff, second by Sinkowitz. Any discussion?
Yeah.
There is discussion.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
I don't think we need to go that far. I think at this point, Mr. Dumont does know our feelings, and I'm not in favor of that because I think we're getting our point across, and the community just needs an apology. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thanks, Bob, because I agree. We're all human, and we had some heated discussion, and we're all passionate about what we want for our community. So
definitely.
I agree with you, Walt. I think we can give Mr. Dumont that moment to apologize if he feels it's necessary.
You have a motion, please vote.
Absolutely.
May I?
Okay, roll call vote, please.
May I? May I?
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Yes, I'm frustrated. I do want our board members better represented. And I understand that my frustration got out of hand so that I used a swear word. I simply want those that are listening and watching this to know that my goal wasn't something negative. My goal was we take advantage of our volunteers and and employees. So let's cover our police officers. Let's cover those that work for us and make sure that they have the ability financially to perform the tasks that they need. I can assure you that my point isn't that I'm derogatory. That part of me as a human being is stronger than I wish it was.
I still
Well,
haven't heard an apology.
Well, here, let me say something, David. I don't disagree with the heat of the moment, okay? But my point is, there's all these people, we're no different than anybody else. You know, these are volunteers. At $5 a meeting, we're volunteers. And you hear a lot of discretion with people that you guys don't do this, you guys don't do that, and you only worry about this and not that. But we have to maintain stability. We are the community, okay? The community put us in this position. We cannot let that happen. And these people on these boards are not taken advantage of, okay? We're representing the people that are paying the taxes. I mean, there's more people. We've seen them at how many showed up for the meeting a couple years back when they wanted to change the whole park. You never heard a person stand up and cuss and swear. Okay, so no matter what your thought is about these people being abused, they're not abused.
Well said,
and I'm sorry, I'm getting too far into it, and I apologize for that.
Can we go to the vote?
Great point.
Can we go to the vote?
Yep. Okay, roll call vote, please.
York,
No.
Sinkwitz,
Yes.
Dumont,
No.
Duff,
Yes.
Malik,
No.
Scott,
No.
Nedro,
No. Motion fails.
So we're not going to get an apology.
Yep, of course we're not.
No, that wasn't
That was
the thing.
Hey,
No, you heard all
I
that.
wasn't the
Okay, enough,
motion.
guys. This is council comments. This is not an argument. Okay, enough.
I'm glad to apologize.
Yeah, okay.
David, you're up
Thank
for your,
you.
okay, you're up for your council comment, Mr. Dumont.
I apologize for using.
Thank you.
And it was disrespectful and inappropriate for sure. I was frustrated because I can't believe how amazing our volunteers are, and I may lean in their favor. And I shouldn't have said what I said just because I was frustrated. My intent was good, but my delivery was bad. I apologize.
Mr. Dumont, I accept your apology.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Mr. Sikowitz.
Yes, I have a couple questions that I have discussed with our administrator. I had questioned you about the shower that was done in the DPW, and you told me that they put over 200 hours in on that shower. Were you able to get a cost of material?
I talked to Andy and he said it's between $500 and $600 for the tile, the utility, and that it is being used by 3 of them right now and will be useful to have, he stated, because they don't have an eye wash station or any way to wash off when they come in contact with poison ivy. And so they will be used once it's complete, but 3 of them currently do use it.
Okay, so 200 hours and that's what, about $30 an hour?
It was kind of a mix of who was doing it. And I think that's what they said with why it took so long, is kind of a learning experience. So
I believe the majority of it was Hunter, actually.
Correct.
No, I had no problem with the shower, but I think what they did was overkill. That, no, you have to look at it, but that shower, most of you would be envious to have a shower like that in your house. Other question I had for you, from your last memo, are you now working 9 to 5 every day?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And last thing is, on the same tone that Mr. Malik had, I've gone to meetings here for 50 years, 40 years. I've never heard a resident, I've never heard anybody in the audience, let alone a council person, use that kind of language. And I think just saying that wasn't very nice and gee, that's too bad that happened. I think some kind of reprimand is in order because it was so blatant and the way it was blurted out, it's very negative for the county. And I hope everybody has a safe and enjoyable 4th of July.
Okay, Mr. York.
All right, I usually don't have a lot to say, but first, and Mr. Smith, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd like to compliment Andrew Stone from DPW that he reduced the quote for power washing the boardwalk from, I think it was roughly 30K in half.
Correct.
And that's going to happen. So I'd like to give him a shout out for that.
Amen.
Great point.
The next thing is the Parks and Rec Board, Mark Germany. I don't want you to feel that I'm against you. My only thing is I'd like to see some kind of plan of how we're going to implement things and what our stages are, what we're going to do. If you need some help with that, you can call. Like most of us, probably including you, are businessmen. We need to see a plan of what we want to do first. What are the priorities? That's why we're pushing to get this bathroom done, because we've been talking about it for, I've been on the board not even 2 years. And so it's been longer than that.
How exciting.
Next thing is, I mentioned it earlier. I'd like to thank the chief and his staff for patrolling the lake. I know it's been crazy. I heard Sunday was a riot. I wasn't, or not a riot, but it was like really crazy. I wasn't out here. But I heard Grunwald on the morning show Monday morning saying I could use a drink after the weekend. And then the last thing I'd like to say is for everybody to have a safe Tiki night and a happy 4th of July weekend.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Scott.
Well, I agree with you, Walt, on everything that was said about the chief. And yes, it was an interesting time on the lake. Keep long fuses on those fireworks. I'm sure there'll be a few shot off from the shoreline, and probably shouldn't be. And do enjoy the 4th from Tiki night. And thank you, David, for coming forward with the apology at the end.
Yes.
Thank you, David.
I'd also comment, David, thank you for exploring a little bit deeper the DPW charges and how they are all equally spread for all of us as residents. They are service fees. We use the same service equally, I am sure, each resident. So thank you to you and to Michael Conduct for further explaining those issues. It was budget time after all.
Okay, thank you. I generally don't say a whole lot either, but I wanted to make a shout out to Mr. Conduct for again putting a great budget together. I know he spent countless hours on putting a lot of stuff together, especially with COVID this year. Has been very difficult for everybody, but I know he was hard working on that on a regular basis. So thank you, Mr. Conduct. Tiki candles are for sale. I've got some in my garage. In fact, there's about 6 people, I believe. Flyers are available, I believe, on the website, are they, Mr. Smith?
Yes, we just posted that today.
And they're going to be spread around a little bit. So thing this year, I talked to Pam Kaznicki, who's kind of sharing everything on that. And it would be helpful to call ahead if you're going to be ordering candles from either one. I think that Grant's going to be selling on the lake again. So look for the pontoon out there selling candles on the lake also. Regarding the lake trolls, I know Mr. Grunwald's been doing a heck of a job trying to keep everything orderly out there. There's been an awful lot of people bending the rules, and I've seen a couple near misses, and I know he's really trying to enforce things out there. And I know residents have been trying to enforce things also. So, I mean, which is a little bit difficult to do. So just want to let people know if they happen to see somebody doing something out of line, please try to get the MC number, call the police department, and try to go through the right channels on it. So personally, I hope this is our last meeting that we have to do online. The first one happened to be the first meeting happened to be the best meeting that we've had on these Zoom meetings. And this happened to be the worst meeting. I'm very disappointed on how we've all acted tonight. I think we're better than that. I know we're passionate about what we do, but we can't let things get to us to the point where we're getting out of hand.
Brian, you did a great job running the meeting. Just awesome.
Well, obviously not well enough, but I want to make sure that we do move forward and do things correct down the road. So please think about what we're doing. Don't open your mouth before you say something that you don't want to have happen.
Good point.
My
apologies.
Thank you. And please, everybody have a safe Tiki night. Try to maintain and have a safe 4th of July holiday. And we'll see you next month.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by second. Second by.
Oh, Duff didn't get his comment.
I didn't have any comment.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Mark. I thought you did earlier.
No, did not.
Okay.
So I would like to thank Mr. Condit for, again, another awesome budget. I'd like to thank our police for what they do. I'd like to thank you, Mr. President, in terms of running a fairly decent meeting. Mr. Dumont, you're one of my people that was on one of my meetings that I have typically about 6 hours a day. You've been fired by now. You're a disgrace, and you find it funny, which is disgusting.
Not funny.
I hope the people in November find it that funny too. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Motion by Sinkowitz, second by, I didn't hear the second on that one.
All second.
Second by Duff. Roll call.
York,
Yeah.
Sinkwitz,
Yes.
Dumont,
Yes.
Duff,
Yes.
Malik,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Nedro.
Yes. Mr. Smith, are we going to have an admin meeting?
No, we don't need one.
Okay, I didn't believe so. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Good night.
Have a good 4th of July.
Ken, stand real fast.
Yeah, let me just wind down YouTube here.
Okay. And Hannah as well.
Yeah.
Just keep us on, Ken.